Hey everybody, it's Barry Clyman. This is the fifth and the final kind of foundational piece of the Winning the Fifth Quarter program that I've built. Foundations are foundations, right? They're the things that you build structures on top of. Foundation should be solid, should be strong, should be have integrity, so you can do what it is you want to do on top of it. Uh, One of the initial foundational piece for all this was Damon John's Rise and Grind. Without rising and grinding, without really getting after it and committing to yourself. Damon's book, The Power of Broke, is a great story about somebody who just knew what he wanted to happen and made it happen. So that foundational piece number one. The second one, of course, was Dr. King, who shared, don't worry about seeing the whole staircase, just the first step. Again, I know so many of us have heard these things before, but I wanted to put them into a system and a structure. And so all of them together, you would get some idea of the integrity of all these things put together so that you could construct what you wanted to happen on top of these foundational pieces. The third one is think tiny, think big, but act tiny. Do not think that you're going to, Rome wasn't built in a day. BJ Fogg talks about that so often, and it's just a important, again, something you've heard before concept, but I think so many of us get caught. I know I did. And it took me a long time to come out of a tailspin that I was in. I told that story the other day on a different a segment of a different program, and I'll tell it again here in a second. But the fourth one is Jay-Z telling us that we're all born with genius level talent. When we find that talent and we do everything we can to apply ourselves to it and doing our level best to be the best we can using that talent, then we can do anything we want. There's a gentleman named Dan Sullivan, one of the world's leading entrepreneurial coaches. He talks about everybody having unique abilities. Same thing. So this is a foundational piece. You have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in what I call the uniqueness of you. And then the fifth piece, if some of this you think is kind of, yeah, I heard it before. You probably heard this before too, but I left it for fifth. But I've talked about it in every other single module, and I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it loud. I'm going to say it in a bunch of ways. Write it down. Grab a journal. Everything that's going to follow. I told you, Damon John's clothing company is FUBU, for us, by us. I think this is a FUBU sweatshirt. This program is for you, by you. You're going to write the book. You're going to write out your plays. You're going to write out all the keys to it. The questions we ask are going to help you think about them, but it's you and your book, you and your notebook that's going to make you win this fifth quarter. Organized, relentless, focused on what you want to happen, your unique abilities, but you got to write it down. I think Einstein said something like, I write because I don't know what I think until I read what I say. Oh, no, that's the quote on the title card. Sorry. Einstein said paper is for writing. Things we need to remember. Our brains are used to think. Pretty smart guy, Einstein, So much of what we're going to cover moving forward in the program, once we get some of the keys in place that you've written in this book, your book, is about you and your story. Everybody has a story. We have multiple stories. I'm going to talk a lot about stories because stories are the way that people connect to people. Connecting to people is a huge, 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 huge part of winning the fifth quarter. It's a huge part of anything. Your stories help you connect to people. A guy named Andy Weir said, a story in your head isn't a story. It's just a daydream until you actually write it down. So write it down. That's why I want you to have a book. I want you to have your stories just, if not crafted, then certainly outlined based on your realities, based on the things you're going to hopefully put in this book. I told a story the other day. I've told it often, but back in 2001, I went broke after being in the search business for 20, what would it be? 20 some odd years anyway. I went broke. The worst recession in Silicon Valley history. It wasn't necessarily that it was the worst, but it was a huge tumble. It was the end of the original dot-com bust called dot bomb back in 2001. And literally the job market just fell apart, particularly here in Silicon Valley. I wasn't equipped to deal with it, even though I had a good brand. A lot of people say okay things about me. I've got tons of nice LinkedIn testimonials and all that. But the market didn't care. The market said, Barry, you're screwed. The business you're in right now and the place you're in it is bad. And I think the one of the most fundamental flaws that caused me to take so long to recover, and it took a long time, it was very scary, was not journaling and keeping current with myself. I don't want to beg you to do it, but I'll beg you to do it. Everything else that follows, I'm going to ask you to make notes about yourself, for you, by you, in your notebook. So that's the module for tonight. The next one, we're going to go into what I call training camp. Yeah, I put a lot of sports analogies behind this thing because I thought it'd be fun to do that. But training camp, we're going to get ready and get ourselves in shape to do everything that follows for winning the fifth quarter. So that'll be up next. Training camp is up next. Please go through these foundational pieces. Please go out yourself. You can go to Target or anywhere and buy a book, a wire-bound notebook for $1 or $2 or whatever. That will be not only the key physically, because you'll have an incredible collection of notes about you. It'll also tell you straight away whether you're really committed to winning. There's a lot of pitfalls along the way. I'm not going to pretend they're not. We've all hit them. I just told you about mine, some of mine. There are others. You're here listening to this because there's a part of your process that hasn't worked. It's not that you're not smart enough. Jay-Z's right. Everybody in the world has genius level talent. Everybody has unique abilities. It's how you've built it out, thought about it, and played your hand. A lot of this program is about understanding what they are and how to use them best. So your unique abilities. But it's all, hopefully, will be here. So that's it. Next module you'll see is going to be about training camp. I hope these foundational pieces are things that you've taken to heart. Again, pardon me, if nothing else, grab a notebook and we'll catch you on the first day of training camp coming up next. Thanks, everybody. Stay safe.